Welcome to People Management's HR Talk, where this week we're talking about the Olympics. There's little more than 100 days to go until the Games, and employers in the capital and elsewhere will already be planning how to respond to the workforce issues presented by this once-in-a-lifetime event. I'm joined by Stevan Rolls, Head of HR at Deloitte, to discuss this topic. Hello, Stevan.
Hi, James.
So, Stevan, what do you think are the top workforce concerns of businesses as we get closer to the Olympics, and what can they do now to address them?
Well, I think there's really three concerns or issues that businesses should be thinking about at the moment. The first and sort of most positively is how do you capture and capitalise on the really sense of goodwill and involvement that there is with the Olympics. So most people who even if you don't work in London, you're in the country, you want to be engaged somehow with the Olympics and are keen. So I think one challenge for people is how do you capitalise on that goodwill and also allow people to participate in the Games. The second is around if you have a business in London, obviously there's going to be some big logistical challenges which are going to knock on to working patterns, ways of working, and that presents a number of issues, some around flexible working, for example, others some really practical issues around bandwidth availability and things like that when people are working remotely, so some very specific issues there. And thirdly, and probably slightly less positively, having a major world event in London at that time I think, should cause businesses to think about their emergency procedures and what they should do if something awful happened during the Games.
You mentioned flexible working. Now, for employers in London, transport problems will mean that flexible working and home working in particular is really high up the agenda. So how do you balance this flexibility within the teams and within the workplace and ensure that productivity is not affected?
Firstly, I think that flexible working, remote working is going to be critical to maintaining productivity during the Games. Obviously, a lot of businesses based in the centre of London, that is an option for them as opposed to manufacturing businesses where perhaps the majority of productive staff are not able to leave the production line. Having said that, I think it will be the truth for most businesses that you couldn't have everybody working at home. For our business in professional services, certainly the thing that we focused on is to try and make sure our policies are in place, make sure our leadership teams have been briefed, and we've had a team of people working on all of the various HR issues for some time now. But even having done that, what we want to do is to make sure that we have local managers briefed in terms of what the options are for them, and then for them to make local decisions about what works and what doesn't work for them. And I think that's really important because I think if you try and legislate these things from the centre with very broad policies and very sort of rigid rules, you're quite likely to have it sort of work in some places and not in others. So what we've tried to concentrate on is making sure that managers are informed about the kinds of options that are available to their people and to have them engaging in discussions with their people and their clients around how they might be able to serve their clients and work productively during the Games period.
What about members of staff who are stuck in the office and want to follow the sporting events on TV or on the internet? Do you see this as a problem? What's your attitude to that?
Well, our attitude is pretty relaxed about that, to be honest. I mean, we have a network of television screens through the office, and on previous big sporting events, I mean, every year, for example, the cricket is on a big screen in New Street Square, where our offices are, and Wimbledon and what have you. And I think it should be a similar sort of approach during the Games. If there's a blue ribbon event going on, 100 metres final or something, in the middle of the working day, it would be quite unrealistic to suggest to people that they shouldn't look at that. I think one of the things that you do have to be careful of with this as well is if you kind of don't provide the facilities for people to look at these things through other means, then they'll do it through the internet. And we did have a problem a couple of years ago when there was a big sort of cricket final on and everybody was looking at it through the internet, and actually we had real problems running the firm systems. So it is beneficial, I think, to give people, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, this, for most people in the workplace today, and it's only natural that people are going to want to see what's going on. So I think if firms can kind of make screens available, if you've got TV screens or plasma screens through the organisation that can be switched to television and to the Olympic events, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't do that. And of course, if somebody is overstepping the reasonable sort of bounds and is sitting in front of the telly all day, then you can just deal with that on a sensible basis that you would any kind of performance issue.
Now, many employers will be looking at the Olympics as an opportunity to engage staff and positively build morale. As an Olympic sponsor, have you got any such initiatives underway at Deloitte?
Well, certainly, I think whether you're an Olympic sponsor or you're not an Olympic sponsor, I think the whole kind of idea of the Olympics, the ethos of the Olympics, and the values around competition and fair play and excellence and high performance are just great themes to hang talent issues on in organisations. So, in an Olympic year, it's a great branding to be able to apply to all sorts of things that we do in the HR space, one way or another, whether that is training programs or communication. So, I think as a branding theme, it works really well. As a sponsor, of course, we have the opportunity to make available to people tickets on a sort of limited basis. And what we've done with that is we've run a number of internal not quite competitions, but sort of opportunities for members of staff to nominate high-performing teams, and then we sort of reviewed those and then awarded tickets to those teams. So people have been able to directly, high-performing teams and teams that have just perhaps previously not been recognised, have been able to go along to the games as a team, as a group, and celebrate their performance and as it were get an experience of the games that they might not otherwise have had.
Thank you very much, Stevan.
Thank you.
Until next time, take care.